Good evening, everybody, and a big warm welcome to you all watching. So this is the Anxiety Compass Facebook group, and welcome to anyone who is interested in anxiety-free living. I can't get my words out tonight. Sorry about that. So this is the Power Hour, where we go live with another expert to give you a wider perspective on what it means to live an anxiety-free life. And tonight we have got the lovely Omar Rafaat, who I met at Inspiring Talks Brighton a few months ago, and he got up and did our Risky Biscuit, and he's brilliant. Turns out we have loads of stuff in common. So just in case you don't know who I am, my name is Sally Garozzo, and I am a truly multi-passionate woman. I am a Marissa Peer trained rapid transformational therapist. I am a vocal coach, and I'm the founder of Inspiring Talks Brighton, and I love what I do. It really is my mission in life to help people overcome all those self-defeating blocks, those bad habits, those fears, those phobias, all that nasty stuff that is holding you back from being the best version of you. So I'm truly passionate about dissolving the self-sabotaging negative thinking around all of that, and I'm really passionate about it. It's all I think about all day, every day. So this is the Power Hour, and tonight we're welcoming Omar Rafaat. I think I said that right. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Omar. And he is an NLP master and hypnotherapist, and he's a trainer as well, and he works with people around anxiety. He is an anxiety specialist. So I'm thrilled to be quizzing him tonight. Hopefully I'm going to learn some stuff too. So please do get your questions ready. Do be prepared to get involved. We love it when you ask. Yes, it triggers our thinking, so that's good. So I'm going to introduce him and tell you a little bit about him. So he's London born and he's Egyptian bred. And he is a surgeon was a surgeon who turned to personal development because he was fascinated with the human mind and behavior. And he has a real hunger for growth, and I love that about him. He's got this real determination in his eyes, and definitely a refusal to settle for less. And he has a strong embrace for change. He loves change. He grasps it. And as well as a passion for music and kite surfing. So from a young age, he was fascinated with the mind and what it could achieve, especially if we as humans could learn to harness and control its power and potential. Unfortunately, though, this didn't translate into his studies, as he initially qualified as a dentist, but always knew this was not his calling or what he was meant to be doing. So he started to seek out more. And having spent the last few years fine-tuning his skills under some great mentors in the field of personal development and hypnosis, he now spends his days doing one-to-one clients and training people in the UK and Egypt in NLP and hypnosis. So I'd like to bring him on. Let's see if I can do this. Hang on 1 second. Omar, can you request to join this live? Just bear with me while I add him to camera. There we go. There he is.
Perfect.
Just gonna turn you up there. How do I say your surname?
Rafaat is fine. That's correct. You said it perfectly.
Oh, good. Phew. I was a bit nervous about that.
I was nervous. I couldn't request to join. I was like, oh, it's not going to work.
Okay, well, we made it work, so that's good.
Perfect.
So, Omar, it's a real pleasure to have you. We've got Helen Proctor Jones watching. Hi, Helen. And we've got Vicky Parker, the lovely Vicky Parker, who's a creative specialist. And hopefully we'll get some more people catching the replay.
Cool.
So I would be really interested to hear a little bit about you and what is your own personal story and how you came to be an anti-anxiety expert, because it's a far cry from being a surgeon, which I'm sure we're all fascinated about.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Sally, and that was a great introduction already. Yeah, it is. It's quite far, but it's also linked. So
Mm.
my background, basically, as you said, I qualified initially as a dentist, and for me, that was very much a love-hate relationship. It was great working with my hands, but it wasn't something that I was passionate about, and I wanted to be as far away from it as I could be. So when I moved back from Egypt, so I studied in Egypt, I then moved back to the UK. And when I did so, I requalified my degree. I worked in hospitals, which is a joint specialty between medicine and dentistry. And that's kind of where everything started to form, because within that, within the head and neck surgery world, I started to see a lot of patients who were struggling with chronic pain. These are people who had jaw joint pain, they had facial pain, they had back pain, all sorts of pain. And it really kind of triggered something in me, because everyone that was seeing these patients would label them as the crazies, and they'd kind of get pushed to the side, they'd be given pills and no one really wanted to deal with them. It wasn't a case of let's see what's going on with them, let's sit down, talk to them. Because obviously I understand, working in an NHS hospital, time is valuable, time is short. So it was very difficult, but still the way they were managed, I suppose I'm very grateful for in a way, because it triggered and allowed me to get to where I am now. So
Yeah.
through all that, I kind of did my own research, and I started to understand the connection between the mind and the body, and how we all function as one big unit. It's not very subspecialized into little segments, as it were. We function as one, as you are fully aware. And
Mm.
from this, I went on to train in acupuncture. Thought, okay, do some acupuncture, maybe that'll help. And I started using that with
Mm.
my patients, and it was good, but it still wasn't really getting to the root of their problem.
Mm-hmm.
I did some more research, and that kind of completely opened up the world of NLP and hypnosis. Now, at this time, I had no clue what this was. I was medically trained, dentally trained. My life was hospital, sort of medication, very kind of blinkered to anything outside of that. Um,
Mm.
but then I did NLP, and Pandora's box was open, really, because it changed my life dramatically. It
Yeah.
helped me work on a lot of things. And then also, the sort of turning point was when I started to use what I'd learned with my patients in the hospital. I would see them sort of a month, 2 months later, and they come back smiling for the first time in however many years. And
Were you able to do that? Sorry to interrupt. Were you able to actually teach your NHS patients NLP?
so I wasn't teaching them, I was just using techniques in my language.
Okay.
So I'd have a consultation. So I'd be running either clinics or operating. And in the clinics, I'd have time to consult and just have a chat with people. So I'd just be running certain questioning patterns or quick change modalities, as it were. So yeah, it was possible. It was very restricted, um,
Yeah.
but it was still getting decent results. But that's kind
Mm.
of when I decided that I was going to go out on my own and do my own thing. And that was
Mm-hmm.
maybe about 4 or 5 years ago.
So, what kind of things were you teaching your patients? What were you telling them about? Kind of relaxing their muscles, or visualizing, or seeing the surgery going better? What were you?
So
Because obviously, I suppose behind like headaches and things like that is stress,
100%,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this became the thing, and this is what led on to anxiety later, is that
Mm.
with people who have chronic pain, so pain of no physical known origin, um, usually, and I tread carefully, but it's about 90+% of the time, it's due to some sort of underlying emotional trauma.
Yeah, I agree.
So it is stress related. It is sort of, there's
Mm.
something that's happened there that they haven't dealt with. And it's the
Mm.
mind's way of saying, look, deal with me, deal with me. And it just shows it in pain. So you'll get it as
Mm.
they'll grind their teeth and you'll get pain in the jaw joints. You'll get shooting pain in the face. You'll get lower back pain, any sort
Mm.
of pain which is of non-organic origin, as it were. And so it
Mm.
was just dealing with them. So to dig into what has been going on, what was their life like? When did the pain begin? All that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Um, so I did all that in the hospitals, and I kind of broke away then to do my own thing with that. And for some reason, I just found myself in the world of anxiety. Now, I know that a lot of people, they when they work with anxiety or smoking or depression, it's usually because they've experienced it themselves, and so they want to give back to people after working on themselves. Now,
Yeah.
I can't say, so other than normal anxiety, which we all experience, I haven't experienced that personally. But for some reason, I just found myself in a world where I'm working with a lot of clients, and everyone that's coming to me seems to be coming to me for anxiety. And I was getting very good results with them. So I just kind of carried on and kept developing from there.
There seems to be a lot of anxiety around at the moment. Anxiety and depression, really big umbrella terms for, sort of serious, quite serious mental health complaints. And I think it's filtering into our nervous systems. And I know there's a few people on this group, me included sometimes, that have these like strange physical sensations. And you think you're having a heart attack, or you think you've got a brain tumor because, you've got these pains in your head, or, there's something wrong with you, but actually it is just anxiety. I do believe that these physical symptoms can produce, this anxiety can produce these very, very odd physical symptoms that we translate as something far more serious, which I guess can lead to something far more serious in later life. But so anyway, that's brilliant what you have just said, and I'm really pleased we've got people like you working in the field, serious medically trained people, because often you feel like you're a bit crazy if you're out on a limb and you don't have medical people supporting you. I've always been a bit airy fairy. I've found spirituality, and angels and fairies and UFOs before I found science. So it's really, really, it feels like such a relief now that science, in a way, is finally catching up with ancient wisdom. And, it's brilliant. So I want to ask you a
Sure.
couple of things I think our people who are watching will love. And if you've got any questions for Omar, please pop them in the comments
Please do,
box.
yeah.
So when a client comes to see you, say they're coming to see you, they're really, really anxious, they've found out about you, they've got social anxiety, and it presents itself in every area of their life, it's debilitating. What are the first things that you assess as to why they might have anxiety?
So the first question I always ask, always, is how do you know it's anxiety? Because it seems to be, as you said, it is on the rise. Statistically, it's on the rise. Whatever label we want to put on it, whatever type, generalized, social, all this sort of thing. There's different labels. So health anxiety, general, social, whatever it may be. We'll get to what they all are. But my first question is always, how do you know it's anxiety? And
Good question.
well, the reason I ask that is because, so from experience now, I get clients that come to me and say, oh, well, I just Googled my symptoms. Or
Oh, don't do that. Don't do
or they'll say,
that.
yeah, yeah, don't do that. But we all are guilty of that to a degree. But then people are labeling themselves, by a
Yeah.
Google search. Or they'll say, oh, well, I was speaking to a friend of mine and my friend has anxiety and she said to me, or he said to me, oh, that sounds like you have anxiety. Maybe that's what you've got.
Mm,
And then automatically they think, okay, well, I've got anxiety. That's it. When it could just be a
yeah.
little bit of stress, a bit of worry. It's,
Yeah.
but then they identify with having that label.
So do you think that stress is different to anxiety?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
How do you think it's different?
So we all experience stress. So life
Mhm.
is never this. Life, there must be yin to
Yeah.
the yang. There is always balance. There's highs and lows. So peaks and
Yeah.
troughs, definitely. Um,
Mm,
Stress is a part of life.
mm,
Stress is self-inflicted if you want. It's something
mm,
that we experience as a challenge at times, and it can be due to many things.
mm.
Anxiety, however, and this is the reason I say that whatever the label you want of anxiety, they're all the same. Anxiety, by definition, and people will argue this, and I'm happy to discuss it further. However, anxiety is fear of the future.
Yeah.
It is fear of the
Fear,
future.
fear of something, isn't
It,
it?
it's this fear of it's this constant overthinking. What if? It's a fear of a future outcome that we have created in our minds that keeps us sort of paralyzed, or many people paralyzed.
Mm,
And
mm,
it's usually, a lot of people will say it's fear of the unknown, but there is no such thing as unknown, because when we say the unknown, we put it into this illusionary space in the future, because it kind of takes that responsibilities off our shoulders. Oh, it's the unknown, I don't need to think about it, sort of thing. But if you were then to sit with that client and discuss, or that person, and probe what is the unknown, they will give you a definitive thing that they are afraid of. And then you can say, ah, okay, so let's pinpoint, this is what you are afraid of. However, anxiety is fear of the future. So that's the
fear of change, fear of
we all have
fear of change as well.
Yeah. So change is very, very scary for people, because it is that element of, oh, well, what's going to happen, you know? And I like to look at it as it's very exciting. Change is exciting. It presents possibilities, opportunities. However, I know to many people, it's the opposite. It is quite scary. It can be quite challenging. People like to get complacent. They get very comfortable in their own little bubble and world. And so any shake-up of that can distress them, if you like.
And I think, I don't know how you feel about this, but actually getting very comfortable is quite dangerous, because I found that my anxiety, I hate saying my anxiety because I know it's like not a thing, but the anxiety that I have experienced in my life has always got worse when I have been comfortable. And it's like there's this fear of going out, or fear of meeting people, or fear of something that is outside of my, you know, my little bubble that's shrunk down to my flat, shall we say. And I find that when I travel, so the thought of traveling, if I'm in my little comfort zone, is just mind-blowing. But once I've done it, once I've gotten over that fear, shall we say, got through customs, gone to the other side, I'm laying on the beach doing a bit of sightseeing, and it's all happening and it's really lovely, I create this lovely headspace, and then when I come back home there is no anxiety because I've stretched my perception, my comfort zone. So is that a pattern that you find with your clients?
To a large degree, yes. And yet, so you've gone a step further. So you've actually done something to stretch that comfort zone. So the people that usually work with me are at that point where they are too afraid to even do that. The idea of stretching it is just a sort of no-no. It's kind of, look, I've established these safe boundaries, just leave me here. But then at the same time, I'm sick and tired of these boundaries, so help me out. But yeah, as I said, so it is this illusionary space, this idea of, you know, what if that we create. So when you do break out of it, you realize, oh, there is nothing to be afraid of. But I know that, you know, it's not always as rational and as logic as that for a lot of people.
Yeah, so they've got themselves, have a lot of your clients got themselves into such a deep rut that they just cannot fathom how they are going to change, how they're going to get rid, how they're going to break the cycle of the rut that they've got themselves in.
So to be fair to them, to be fair to many of them, they just do not know. The problem is they do not know. It's kind of, it's not ignorance, it's just a lack of awareness. It's because there's so much information at the moment. There's so much bombardment, especially around mental health, mental well-being, mental illness, anxiety, because it's so prevalent at the moment. There's so much information, and there's so many myths out there. And so I think it's just a case of there isn't the proper awareness regarding what it is, how it happens, and what you can do about it. So I think that's more of the problem, or that's more of the issue, at least.
Yeah, sure. So we've spoken about what causes anxiety, which is fear of the future, fear of change. Is there anything else in your mind that causes anxiety?
Yes. So anxiety is fear of the future. What causes it, though, is fear. So it is, the definition of it is fear of the future, but then what actually causes it is fear, and it's usually a fear that happened at some point in your life. So as I said, it's the same kind of concept as chronic pain. There's something traumatic that happened within your life that triggered the fear, which then you did not deal with. You didn't learn the lessons that you needed to learn. And so it presents itself as anxiety. So that's where it comes from. Now, usually I have found with the majority of people that it's something from within their childhood.
Yeah.
So we're talking before the age of 10 easily, if not before the age of 6. For some people, they won't see the trigger till later on in life. However, if you get to the root cause of it, it goes back to 6 or 10.
Yeah.
So it still stems from fear. This is the idea. This is where it's very important, that its root and its core is fear. And so if we deal with the fear, if we work on the fear, then that's how we can then overcome it and resolve it.
So going back to, and you do that through hypnosis.
Yeah. So I do that through hypnosis and other techniques. Yeah. So it's basically regression with hypnosis. Yeah.
Yeah, we do exactly the same thing. It's so cool. Yeah, brilliant. And I find with my clients, when they go back to that scene in their childhood, where the anxiety started, where they felt like they weren't good enough, or they had to be frightened of, or maybe it was to do with taking responsibility. Maybe their parents were putting too much emotional stuff on the child, so the child felt like, oh, you know, I've got to make my mum happy because my mum's sad, or I've got to try and make my dad happy because my dad's really sad. And you know, I can't do that because I'm just a kid. But you think you still take on that responsibility even though you can't, because you're just a kid. And so it becomes this heavy burden, I guess, that you drag through your life, and you end up, I don't know, having to, or feeling like you have to try really, really hard in life to get, or you have to try and please everybody, or, you know, I find a lot of people with anxiety are people pleasers, and, you know, they're not comfortable just being.
So they put themselves last, I'd say, rather than people pleasers. I'd say they always put other people ahead of them. They tend to prioritize everyone else, and then they come last. Doesn't matter about them, it's everyone else being happy. I've also found, so when I say trauma, a lot of people think when we say trauma, we mean something negative. It doesn't have to be just something negative, because I worked with many clients where the trauma or the trigger event that sort of caused the anxiety was, you know, other than the root cause of fear, the actual trigger of anxiety was moving house, or it was a new job. A very common one I'm seeing more and more of is ladies after giving birth.
Oh yeah.
So women who have a newborn, they usually, or clients of mine have said, you know, after we gave birth, that's when the anxiety kicked in. So yeah, so the idea is that trauma does not have to be just something negative, because we always think, oh, trauma has to be, you know, abuse or rape or sexual, whatever. No, a trauma can just be, it's any change in the status quo, it's any shift to our normal pattern and habit that we don't necessarily deal with, or makes us feel uncomfortable slightly. That can be a trigger at times.
Yeah, and I guess it's your mind in a way trying to protect you from further trauma. So your mind goes, that hurt, or that was not very nice, so let's shut down around that, and we'll make you not want to do that thing again, i.e. have another baby, because it was difficult first time, so let's not do it again. Yeah, I find that there's sort of like a shutting down. But yeah, no, it's very interesting what you're saying, actually, especially around childbirth, because like you say, it's supposed to be a positive life experience, but often it's not, for some women, not that I know. Okay, so let me have a look. Let's talk about medication, shall we?
Yeah, okay. The pills don't work.
Seeing as you're from, sorry?
The pills don't work.
Basically, they don't work.
Yeah.
So don't take them.
Yeah, you know.
Because it's not a, I love this, what you say on your website. There's the Newtonian concept of health, which is the medical profession, versus the quantum concept of health, which is to do with everything that you can't see. So the feelings, the emotions,
Yeah.
the atoms, the molecules, the space in between what we can see, what we can measure. So can you speak a little bit about why you think medication doesn't work, and yeah,
Because the verb said
anything
it.
else?
No, no. So the reason medication doesn't work. So here's the thing. So right. So if we anxiety is a symptom of fear. So fear is the root cause. Fear that's not dealt with then causes anxiety. Now, medication is a form of symptomatic relief. Okay, so you take medication to relieve symptoms. Medication does not really cure a disease or an illness. So this is where Western medicine or modern healthcare falls short, because we give medication or we prescribe medication in order to relieve symptoms, not to solve a problem. Now, people who take medication for anxiety, if they find some relief in their symptoms, this does not resolve the anxiety, because the moment they come off the medication, the anxiety is still there, so nothing is fixed. Also, those who may find that it helps slightly, they become completely zombified. They're not functioning as them. So it's just masked the symptoms and it's also changed them. That's the second thing. Third thing is obviously you have side effects. Fourth thing is you have addiction. So if you look at sort of medications such as Prozac, Xanax, antidepressants, whatever it may be, they're the kind of medications where if you're taking them for a while, you can't just decide to turn off and stop taking them. You have to kind of titrate yourself off of it, because it is a bit addictive. You'll have withdrawal symptoms, so on and so forth. So they're just a nightmare, and they don't solve anything, because they don't fix the fear. They don't resolve the fear. Now, this is all from the myth that people say, oh, anxiety is a chemical imbalance. It's not true. It's complete BS, and it's been debunked many a times. It's not a chemical imbalance. There is no tests that prove it is a chemical imbalance. And when doctors say it, ask them to show you what tests they took to prove this chemical imbalance. There is no chemical imbalance. The medication does not serve to resolve the issue. The medication serves to dampen down neuroreceptors, which then in turn just zombifies you. So it's not a cure. It's symptomatic relief at best. And from a lot of people, what I hear is, oh, after a lot of trial and error, we found a medication that works for the first while, but then it stopped working. So
because you get resistant to it, or is that right?
I don't know, to be honest. You could get resistant to it. It may just, the idea is, because it is, so this is the world according to me. This is my perception of it. Because it is an emotion based, because it is fear based, the reason you are experiencing the symptom is because your mind, your unconscious mind, your existence, you, and I'm not talking in a woo-woo, I'm talking as you, as in you, there's something you're not dealing with. There's something that you're burying, and your mind is saying to you, wake up, pay attention to me, deal with this. So you try and put a lid on it. So it's just going to turn up somewhere else. It's just going to show up in another way.
Yeah, like one of those whack-a-mole things.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that's the reason that the drugs don't work.
Yeah. The verb said it, and we're saying it again.
The verb said it,
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, every time I've been offered them, I've refused. I've taken them once. I took them once. I took sertraline once for about 4 days, and just was like, what am I doing? This is just wrong. Every fibre of my being felt wrong taking them, and it didn't even mask anything. It just made me feel worse. So I agree, and I'm just so passionate about the fact that we need to do something about it. We need to go within. This is another question. Why do you think people avoid going within? Why do you think people want a quick fix?
It's the society we have breeded and we have created. We live in a world where things are very instantaneous. That's what has been developed and breeded. We have a pill for everything. you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, you want to lose weight, there's a pill for that. You want, you know, to be better in the bedroom, there's a pill for that. There's a pill for everything now. And that's what people want. People don't want to, A, they don't want the responsibility. B, they do not want to have to face their demons, if you like. Where the reality is they don't actually have to face anything. The way that it's done is so atraumatic that they don't have to
Yeah.
face anything. Um,
Yeah.
it's just, you know, that it's there's a lot of
It's a
marketing
beautiful
obviously
thing.
behind it all. Pardon?
I was going to say, I don't know the experience that you have, but I find it very beautiful when somebody finally um, realizes why they are the way that they are, and if they're looking at the childhood version of themselves, or they're unlocking that trauma, or they're experiencing that emotion, they're letting it go, letting it out. It's such a beautiful moment, and I'm sure you feel that too when you're with your clients and you're supporting them through that phase, that trauma, so to speak, because it's being transformed and transmuted.
Mm-mm. For me,
It's so,
it's basic. So my focus is always my clients. It's I just want to get them from where they are stuck and see the transformation. And that is the beautiful part, as you say. It's seeing how they come in one way, usually struggling, you know, in a certain manner, and then you hear from them a week or so later, and their life is completely different. And I just love that.
yeah,
I just love that.
yeah.
And the fact that it's so
We've had
easy. Oh God, sorry, go on.
got a question here. Helen, are you watching with Katie? I think you might
Hi,
be.
Helen.
Let me just see what you've said. It says, let me see. It says see more, and I can't see the rest of your comment.
So I've got it up
Such a
on
lack
the
of.
laptop if you want.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, can you read it out?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So Helen, hi Helen. So she says, such a lack of awareness for each individual. Without this kind of help, how do you know it's happening? What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what you mean, Helen. How do you know what is happening? If you've got anxiety, if you're stifling your trauma, let us know.
What do you mean, Helen? Yeah, let
What's
us know.
Let
Such a
us
lack
know.
of
In the
awareness.
meantime,
Mm.
we'll carry on. So,
Yep.
um, okay, let's get to what your tips are then for dissolving anxiety.
So, as I said, the first thing is ask yourself, how do you know what you are experiencing is anxiety? How do you know? Be honest with yourself. Is it because it was prescribed to you by someone? Did you Google it? Did a friend tell you? Determine first, is what you are experiencing, is it anxiety? Is there a fear? What are you afraid of? That's the next thing. Ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of? You know, what is my deepest fear? What am I actually worried about?
Mm.
That would be the next thing to do. Now, a lot of the times what we do, as I said, so there is with anxiety, there is the theme of overthinking and the question, what if? Yeah, there's this spiraling of what if, what if, what if. And the what if question is always, it's always a negative. It's always a,
Sorry.
it's okay. It's always a negative. It's always a what if the worst outcome were to happen sort of thing. We never think what if something great's going to happen. No, it's always what if the worst, all right? Now, the problem here as well is we ask ourselves, okay, what if, you know, I get rejected? What if they laugh at me? What if they ignore me? What if I can't make it? And then we stop. We don't respond
Yeah.
to that what if question. We just leave it floating about. And obviously it becomes this then uncertain open loop within our mind because we've asked a question with no certainty and just left it spiraling. So my tip is, my suggestion is begin to respond to your what ifs.
Right.
Say to yourself, no matter what, I can handle it.
Yeah.
Because that is the
So talk
reality.
to you. Excuse me, I'm coughing really
That's
badly. Hang
okay.
on.
It's okay. I'm waiting for Helen to tell me what she meant by her comment.
She'll get to us, I'm sure.
So
Yeah, so answer your own question. So don't stop there, because yeah, so looping thoughts.
yeah, so answer your question. So you ask yourself, what if? You know, what if they ignore me? What if they reject me? What if I ask that girl out and she says no? What if I say something to this guy and he says whatever?
Mm.
And then we leave it as that. So it becomes this negative spiral. And the reality is nothing will happen. You have made it to where you are. So you can then affirm to yourself, you say, do you know what? No matter what happens, I can handle it. And you have to respond to yourself with conviction when you say it, because it is true.
Yeah.
You can handle it. Anxiety will never hurt you. Anxiety cannot hurt you. It just can't hurt you. There is this fear of, oh my God, it's going to kill me. However,
Mm-hmm.
the reality is it cannot hurt you. So
Mm.
yeah, so my main sort of tip is begin to answer your what ifs. Do not leave them as an open loop.
Yeah. Very interesting. I like the idea that anxiety cannot hurt you. So what can hurt you then? Is there something that can hurt you? I mean, if anxiety, I guess I guess the ultimate thing is I'm going to give myself a heart attack because I'm so stressed.
So
Can that happen?
so you will get physical symptoms such as the common ones are stomach problems, lump in the throat, chest palpitations, chest pain, lightheadedness, dizziness, all these things I've heard about anxiety. However,
Mm.
they are just symptoms linked to the anxiety. They are psychosomatic symptoms.
Yeah.
They will not kill you. You will not have a heart attack. So palpitations are very normal. We all get palpitations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you will not die from it.
Yeah.
Your anxiety will not hurt you. It cannot hurt you
Yeah.
because it's fear,
Mm. Mm.
because it
Mm.
is fear. So
Mm.
fear cannot hurt you.
Yeah. It's just fear. I remember seeing you said that seeing something that you'd written, your anxiety is lying to you.
Yes.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
So it's linked to this. So it is lying to you because so many people tend to think, oh my goodness, I'm having a panic attack. My anxiety is going to hurt me. My anxiety is going to be the end of me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I can't get into a proper relationship because of my anxiety, because, and we create this identity about being anxious. People who have anxiety will not say, I experience anxiety or I struggle with anxiety. They will say, I am anxious or I have
Yeah.
anxiety. So it
Yeah.
becomes an
They
identity. It's an identity. It becomes a belief.
Yeah.
Now, I have had many clients who I have refused to work with, and one recently I worked with after 2 years of refusing to work with her because she was so identified to her anxiety. It was a part of her. She had created her life around having anxiety and around being an anxious person. Now, it
Mm.
becomes very difficult for you to want to let go of something if it is a part of you.
Yeah. So how do you loosen that with somebody?
So you challenge it. So you
Right.
have to find out, are they then using the anxiety to their benefit? Is the lifestyle
Mm.
they have created, is it benefiting them in any way? Is
I
it
see.
secondary gain, basically?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Or is it that it's so ingrained and they've had it for so long that it has created
Mm.
their identity? Because you'll find, and it may be horrible to say, but it is the truth, that a lot of people say they have anxiety, and then when it comes down to doing something about it, they do not want to do anything about it.
Right. So they can't let it go
They do
because
not,
they're getting something from
they
it.
don't want to let it go.
Mm.
So there's no such thing as can't. So you can do it. The thing is, you can. Anyone can because it's a learned behavior. It's something you learn. You were not born with it. You didn't inherit it
No.
from your parents. It happened along the way somewhere. So you can, just as you learned it, just as you developed it, you can also unlearn it. Um, you are choosing whether you want to then go ahead and work on doing something about it or choosing whether you want to hold on to it.
So how do you unlearn anxiety then? Is it literally just practicing facing that fear and talking yourself through that fear?
You can do that. That's quite a full-on intense way of doing it, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can, so the way that I would always, do it is, if you can, if you are aware, if you can find an awareness within you, find out where it all began. Find out where the fear all began and just begin to reflect on what you needed to learn from that fear. What do you need to learn from that lesson that will allow you to let go of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is the way,
And
you know.
and then start telling a different story,
Yep.
presumably.
Yep.
Yeah, start telling the truth rather than believing the lies that your primal brain is trying to tell you.
Well, the thing is this as well. So you say truth, and yes, absolutely, I agree. And there is, so you have a choice in what anything means, right? What I mean by this is life happens to us all. Life has no meaning.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is that events happen, and the event in itself is just an event. An event in itself has no meaning to it. The meaning of it
Like benign, just
is
benign.
just an event. It's just an event.
Mm.
The meaning of any single event that we experience in our lives only comes from when we experience it. We then translate in our minds what it means, and we give it a definition. We give it a meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, two people will experience the exact same thing, and they will walk away with two very different meanings
Yeah.
based on their beliefs, their values, their language, how they see the world. They will give it very, very different meanings.
Yeah.
So this comes from the idea of, with a lot of people, anxiety, there is a fear of making mistakes. So people have created, and this idea of fearing of making a mistake comes from the identity or the meaning that mistake means failure,
Yeah.
and failure means no good. Now, it doesn't. That's a definition that you have given it. Now,
Yeah.
to say that mistakes means a learning opportunity and growth, well, you could also argue it doesn't mean that. But you have a choice as to which of those you take on board for it to mean. So
Yeah.
surely if you have that choice and you can actually choose which one to go with, I would then always say go with the more empowering one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's about deciding to choose the right or the more positive definition of an event.
Yes, you define the meaning of your life. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is empowerment for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So
Woohoo!
exactly, yes. So empowerment is being a cause of everything that goes on in your life, both good and bad, saying, okay, I have created this, I am responsible, and
Yeah.
what do I need to learn? What can I do better next time? How do I improve? Instead of being in victim mentality, which is just saying, why me?
Yeah.
Why did this happen to me? Because it takes away any power from you.
And staying stuck there. But presumably you have to give yourself space to experience, say something quite negative has happened to you. Okay, I know we're not defining it, but something that would be deemed negative. Presumably you have to allow yourself to experience the feeling of that particular trauma if it was a traumatic event, and then perhaps later on down the line decide to think about it differently.
Yep, absolutely. And so the majority of my clients are female. And when I got into all this work with anxiety, it really blew my mind the number of females worldwide who have been subject to rape and sexual abuse and all sorts, right? However, it was also very eye-opening that, women could experience that and still come out, fighting and with a warrior mentality. And there are
Mm,
others who experience that and they will maintain the victim mentality. Now, what
mm,
this says is, I am in no way saying, what happened was right. They're both, it's still a terrible thing, the actual event, right? I'm not justifying it in any way. However, it was down to the individual who experienced it then, who later on reflected and said, do you know what? I'm going to take this and say that I've been through this, I am where I am now. That means I am solid, powerful, so on and so forth, and use it to
mm.
empower me as opposed to using it as a crutch.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, at the time, and this is another thing. So I will never work with people who have just gone through strong emotional trauma, as it were, because there is a normal, natural period for expressing emotion. You have to have a period of grief. You have to have a period of sadness after certain events. That's natural. Emotions are very healthy. If it
Yeah,
becomes prolonged, if it becomes something that is causing a problem, that is then when I will get involved.
yeah, I hear what you're
I
saying.
think Helen has
Yeah, and
commented again.
what did she say?
So it wasn't a question, more a statement that without the help of a therapist and the skills such as you two have, most people have no idea why they behave the way they do, and or why they are feeling unhappy, anxious, depressed. Do we not all walk around mostly emotionally blind due to a lack of awareness? So it's figuring out that you need help before you even know you need it. And that worries me.
True. Well,
Strong statement.
that's very reflective.
Hmm?
Yeah, that's very reflective,
It
Helen.
is.
And yeah, it's very true. And sometimes I wish I could walk around with a lightning rod or a lightsaber and just zap people on the head. But you know, you just have to. That's one of my challenges actually at the moment, is just chilling out around self-development. And I guess you just have to let people. It's like that whole thing is. There's a story about a dog who's sitting on a pin,
Hmm.
and somebody walks past and says, that dog's clearly in pain. Why doesn't he just get up off that pin? And the owner says, well, obviously it doesn't hurt badly enough yet. And so the idea is that we only really change until something hurts us bad enough. And I think that's a tragedy. I really do. But I can kind of see how it works, that actually your anxiety or your depression or whatever it is, your illness that you're experiencing has to get that bad before you'll actually wake up and go, I need help.
Yes.
Sadly, that's the case, but I think that's because we're sort of sentient beings and we rely on our feelings, are our kind of emotional guidance, like a scale in terms of, you know, when we're ready to do something about it, they guide us.
Mm.
So, but thank you anyway, Helen. That's a nice thing to say.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think I also agree. I mean, a lot of people are emotionally blind. We do not know what we are emotionally experiencing. Um, and there is an emotional immaturity to many of us. I know that a lot of people say, oh, men are very emotionally mature, but I think it works both ways. It is not gender specific. And I think there is becoming more of an awareness towards, emotions and being emotionally aware. And the more we do that, then the more we can work on chronic diseases and issues and things, because
Yeah.
they have a strong play in them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's hopefully we'll get it into the mainstream soon. Hopefully in our lifetimes, anyway.
It will be interesting to see. I mean, there's definitely, so from working in hospitals, I know there is a definite shift in the approach and the acceptability of things within the medical world. I think they still have a while yet, um, but yeah, there is definitely more of an openness now. The problem is,
Yeah.
though, we are dealing with, when it comes to dealing with people's emotions, it's so subjective. You can't measure it. And,
No.
and this is kind of where the problem is, because, science is based, is sort of objective study of subjective experience. But
Mm.
it's very difficult to have that with human emotion or with
Yeah.
anxiety, because, as I say, so for example, you cannot measure what is, or the level of someone's anxiety. You can only go based on what they say they are experiencing.
Yeah.
Um, so you can only go and measure the results you get. So someone comes to me, they say, look, I'm really struggling, I'm anxious, this is how it's affecting my life, and we'll
Mm.
dig into it and we'll really look into it. The only way I can measure a success is if when they leave, I see that they are completely different, that they are responding differently. That's the only way I can measure it.
That's right. And then them keeping in touch with you and letting you know how they're doing day to day.
Well, not day to day, that would be a lot, but yeah. So yeah, they let me know how they're doing, yeah.
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 Week to week, month to month then.
Yeah, and it gets to a point where it's I don't need to know anymore. They're just happy in their life, you'll see or hear something from them now and again, and you just know that everything is good and that's it. But my point
Yeah.
is, I think until we find a way where we can measure the effect of the work that we do, we can measure the input of things such as hypnosis through all that sort of stuff. It's got a while to go, yeah.
Yeah.
Got a while to
I
go.
guess we just have to trust ourselves and feel into what we, use our intuition and feel into whether we think a certain therapy is right or working for us. Um, yeah, and I think intuition plays a big part in it. And again, you can't measure intuition because it's so in you and sort of ethereal. So I want to know from you,
Yep.
and I'm sure everybody else does, how does NLP help with anxiety and how do you work with people? In case there's anybody watching that would like to work with you.
Okay. So NLP is the study of how we do what we do as humans. It's breaking down the behavior of a human being. So everything we do is learnt behavior, as I said. Now, if you can learn something, then you can find out exactly how you learned it, exactly how you do it in your mind, break it down into a process, and if it's something great, you can then replicate it into someone else. If it's a problem, you then just change it and rewire it, or you unlearn it and learn something more beneficial. That's what NLP is, in essence. The way that I work is I utilize everything that I've learned, so NLP, hypnosis, all the different tools that I have, to then work with the individual on getting them back to the very, very root cause of their anxiety, of their fear, helping them rewrite the meaning of that fear, release the emotion of it, and it then literally dissolves. I cannot sort of explain it more than that. From my
Mm-hmm.
clients, from what they tell me, is it's kind of like space has been created. That's how they describe it.
Yeah.
And the thoughts they were getting before, the experiences they were having before are no longer there. So once
Mm,
you deal with that root cause, once we work on that root cause, they just go on with the rest of their lives, experiencing life, feeling confident,
yeah.
being themselves again. Because I hear this a lot. A lot of people say, since I've had the anxiety, I'm not me anymore. And once we
Yeah.
work on the anxiety, once the anxiety is gone, they say, I'm me again.
Yeah.
So that's how I use it. I use NLP and hypnosis to do that, to get them to the root cause, to not give them coping strategies, none of that. No, we work on removing the fear so they can move on.
That's interesting. You don't give them coping strategies because you can get very attached and addicted to the coping strategies, can't you?
Yes, and
Yeah.
so they don't need it because, as I say,
Yeah.
we're not putting a plaster on it. We're not resolving a little bit or just dampening it down. So my focus is no, let's get to the root of it. Let's tear out those weeds from their root, and then they're no longer
Mm,
there.
amazing. Sounds brilliant. So do you do like is it a one-off session or
So I
course or
do.
how do you
So
work?
I do. So the way I like to work is because people are variable and it's very individual. So I work 3 sessions within 4 weeks. So within a
Yeah.
4 week window, it's three 1 hour sessions, one to one. Usually, after the first to second session, the anxiety is gone.
Mm,
Now, the reason it's 3 weeks or 3 sessions within the 4 weeks, sorry, is because it's like any change work, as I'm sure you're aware, Sally, any change work is like peeling layers of an onion, off an onion. So we deal with the anxiety, which is the problem. Usually something else may come to the surface. Now, if that happens, I
yeah.
like to help just work on that as well, just clear it up, and then
Yeah.
they can go out, enjoying life, as it were.
Yeah. Brilliant. And you work via Zoom, do you?
Zoom or
Or via
Skype, yeah,
online?
Zoom or Skype,
Yeah.
yeah, so it just
Oh,
allows me then to work with people from all around the world. So
yeah.
yeah,
Just better that way. You've got a wider reach.
It's a wider reach, and for a lot of people, it just gives them that comfort to work from home. It means they don't have to get up and drive on travel and so on and so forth. Now, for some people, yes, they like to work face to face, and that's fine. That can, if they're local, that can be catered for. So I'm going to Egypt. I'm running a training course there in March, and there are a few people that want to work face to face. Fine, that's okay. However, generally, people are more comfortable working from home, especially when it comes to anxiety.
Yeah,
Because some people
yeah,
can't even
sure.
drive, their anxiety is so bad that they don't want to drive, they don't want to leave the house, so it
Yeah, yeah,
just makes it easier.
definitely. Well, that's brilliant. Yeah, that does make sense. Okay, so I think that's about it. Oh, finally, how can people contact you, Omar, if they want to work with you? Have you got a website?
So I have got a website. So the website is mindismatter.com, or
Hmm.
easier, they can just add me, contact me on Facebook at Omar Rafaat,
Hmm.
or on Instagram at mindis_matter.
Hmm.
Yeah, just send me a DM, contact me, reach out, and we can have a chat. If they want to talk
Brilliant.
about anxiety, if they want to have a chat about what's going on with them, if they want to chat about one-to-one work, I'm more than happy to talk to anyone at any time. Um, and yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Well, thank you so much for your wisdom. I've really enjoyed chatting to
Thank
you. I
you.
can't believe an hour has just gone
An
like that.
hour.
It
Wow.
always does these, but you're really interesting, and I've definitely learned some stuff from you. I'm sure there's bucket loads more wisdom within you. We could probably just keep on going for ages, but I don't want it to get too geeky. Um, so, guys, if you've really enjoyed that, please show Omar some love. Send him some hearts, send him some likes, and contact him if you have resonated with what he said and you feel like working with him, or even if you don't feel like working with him, just follow him on Instagram and Facebook. He puts out some fantastic content. So, thanks, Helen. Sarah, you've just joined us, but we're just about to leave now. Thank you, Rachel, Emma, Helen, Lorna, Roz, Gemma. Hi, Gemma. And Vicky. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. And we'll see you again soon.
Right, thank you very much, Sally.
All right. All right, lovely. Take care.
Take care.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.